thought that almost after 10 years, Modern Warfare 2 would be getting people excited again. It's like 2009 all over again with some of the attention this game has been getting. It's the game I started my channel on, and that was way before I ever started telling the YouTuber to go fuck himself. Man, I can't believe it's been this long. Time flies when you're having fun in this motherfucker, and you wonder where all these years went. Now, of course, I don't have any active Modern Warfare 2 footage, so I had to go back and grab some old shit that was on my channel way before I was ever doing commentary. So hence, what you see in the background is fucking old. Old, man. No doubt about that shit. But anyways, a few weeks ago, there was a potential leak about Modern Warfare 2 being remastered and brought to the current consoles, but the leak stated that it was only going to be for the campaign portion of the game. It was going to be released in the spring, summer months instead of the typical November release when Call of Duty normally comes out. Since that time, nothing else other than more rumors have come out about the game, and Activision has obviously been quiet about the topic for various reasons. Mainly, money. You know, every decision they make is all about money. So regardless of whether the leak is true or not, whether we see a campaign remake at some point, you almost have to assume that the game will be coming out at some point. You know, after Call of Duty 4 was added to that infinite bullshit to help sales boost that motherfucker, you can see the writings on the wall. That older games are going to get re-released and probably attached to some of the newer Call of Duty games. It's probably Activision's way to try to bring back all the old players who have left the franchise over the past 6 or 7 years. People that got disenfranchised with these pieces of shit are like, you know what, fuck this, man, I don't want to play this shit. Call of Duty 4? Yeah, I'll come back for that. You know, by offering them the original games that made the series what it was, that entices people to come back. Now, I'm not going to get into the strategy of marketing or releasing the game. It did, though, seem odd that a campaign-only version of the game would release when the campaign was actually all kinds of awful. Oh, that Modern Warfare 2 campaign, man. It also seemed odd that it would release over the summer and that it would release in between Sledgehammer's World War II game and Treyarch's upcoming Black Ops 4. I mean, considering this is an Infinity War game, it would have made sense to release it sometime during an Infinity War year with one of their games. So aside from that, let's just make the assumption the game is eventually going to be released. Let's assume that the next time Infinity Ward has a game, they'll do the same thing and they'll attach Modern Warfare 2 to the current game. That poses the question, would you want multiplayer to remain the same, or would you want the game to be fixed? Now, that's not asking whether Infinity Ward would fix the game, because we know the answer to that. If the game is released, it will be in the state that they left it in, which was a horrendous shit show. This isn't a question of would they fix it, it's a question of should they fix it. People who play the game know the story of Infinity Ward at the time. The heads of the studio were fired by Activision, and they took a good portion of the staff with them to start Respawn Studios, and they ended up creating Titanfall. That left a bare-bones studio behind to provide the game with ongoing support, but they weren't capable of fixing the game, and they merely put band-aids on the motherfucker. 10 years later, though, they now have the staff. They filled out a studio, and in theory, they have a chance to finish what they started all those years ago and balance the game the way they want. The question is, should they do it? So let's put the ultimate decision maker in charge of the game. Me. Damn right, motherfucker. I will put me in charge of any game to be re-released in this bitch. So here's what we are going to do. Without question, I would fix and improve the game. There is no doubt in my mind that in today's gaming world with patches and balances, companies are very mindful of games being tuned to what players want. A game like Modern Warfare 2 would have had to have been patched in today's market. I don't believe any studio on this planet would leave Modern Warfare 2 in the state they left it in if they had the ability to fix things. Infinity Ward didn't have the ability all those years ago, but now they do. So, I would fix the problems. But, let's get real here for a moment. The bullshit of Modern Warfare 2 is also what gave the game its charm. For all the bullshit in the game, you have to admit that Modern Warfare 2's broken fucking perks also made the game as entertaining as possible and gave people hours of trolling enjoyment. Oh man, you remember all the stupid shit you could do? I mean, just look at my fucking video. I decided just to take the clip that I'm posting up right now with the unlimited noob tubes, where I sat in the corner like a dick and I fired those shits off for like 10 fucking minutes. The brokenness of Modern Warfare 2 is what the game will forever be known for. And in some cases, the broken shit that infuriated people also had them coming back to the game. So, the first thing CEO J Loco would do is split the game up, believe it or not. I would do original or classic Modern Warfare 2, and then updated Modern Warfare 2. Classic Modern Warfare 2 would keep everything the way it was. One-man army, noob tubes, commando lunge, the works. Basically make it the arcade version of the game and keep that shit as annoying as people remember it. Now, one of the downsides to having different modes like this is the problem of the ever-dwindling fan base. Having too many playlists means you're going to split up the community a bit too much over multiple game modes, so I'd keep it simple. Team Deathmatch and Domination at the start of arcade mode, maybe free-for-all, and maybe rotate Search and Destroy in there every now and then. On the updated side, I would probably do maybe 8 playlists or less as well. You know, the usual ones. Team Deathmatch, free-for-all, Domination, Search and Destroy, probably Demolition, maybe some hardcore modes like Hardcore Team Deathmatch. If fans are playing it more, and they want more modes, and we see a need for more modes, then we'll roll out some more different game types. But otherwise, if you give people too many options, you end up with smaller pools of people to make lobbies, and chances are you would get massive lag spikes that piss people off. Simple for this remake is better, with the understanding that if the community wants more, and the numbers reflect that the game needs more, then we'll add more. What I would like to see, though, is the game updated with fixes that the game needs. So the arcade mode wouldn't touch. But for the updated mode, it definitely needs some fixes. However, the game actually doesn't need much. You know, it really doesn't when you look at the biggest problems that the fucking thing had. Commando lunges, unlimited noob tubes, tactical insertions, death streaks, and last stand. That's really it. Now, if you want to get into balance items, you know, things like shotguns as secondary weapons, danger close, scavenger replenishment, bling with 2 attachments, and akimbo weapons, particularly with fucking commando, that's something else. And if you really wanted to get into the ideological changes that morph the game, then you have items like the nuke, stopping power, and aim assist for trick shots. Now, I know like this can sound like a lot of things to fix, but when you look at how simple some of these things are, it's really just a few patches that would have resolved some of this bullshit a few years ago. So let's start with some of the biggest headaches in the game. Commando lunges should have never been in the game, period. What makes this perk even more infuriating, it's the default perk when you unlock a character or you prestige your character, which means every motherfucker in the room has access to it. The pro perk, though, was fantastic. You know, taking no fall damage from whatever height. But Commando has got to go. And the simple fix? Remove it from the game. That's it. Remove the fucking perk from the game and move the pro perk, the no damage from falls, to something else as another pro perk. And here's the funny thing. Perk 1 and Perk 2 have 5 options to choose from, but Perk 3 actually has 6 options to choose from. So to sharpen this shit up, just remove Commander from the game and cut down on the knife lunges to begin with, period. Nice and simple. One-man army was always an easy fix, and Call of Duty 4 had the coding to do so. Back in Call of Duty 4, if you equipped grip on an LMG or a noob tube on an assault rifle, you lost the ability to choose Perk 1. There were restrictions. Do the same here. And it can be done by either removing the ability to select the noob tube attachment with one-man army, or removing the ability to select one-man army when you have a noob tube attached. Either one is fine. I know people will say, well, the workaround is the ability to switch to a class that has a noob tube. But that's the thing. With either one of these changes that I have at the beginning, even if you still switch your class, you're still only getting 2 noob tubes. That doesn't change the ability to restrict people from having an infinite number. It just means they switch to a class and they're going to get stuck with that class after they fire off their 2 noob tubes. Tactical insertions, they were a good idea in theory, but ultimately they were abused. You know, people weren't using them tactically. They were basically abusing that shit so that they could get nukes, they could do headshots, sit in a corner, whatever the fuck it is. For the few people who actually use tactical insertions the correct way, you have to admit, getting rid of tactical insertions is a small sacrifice to cut down on some of the bullshit that people actually used it for. Death streaks annoy the living fuck out of people. You know, much like Commando, just remove them. It was an absolutely awful way to reward players who were dying too much, particularly Painkiller or fucking Final Stand. Copycat wasn't that bad, but Painkiller, Final Stand, Martyrdom, oh god, they were insanely fucking stupid. Just drop that shit. There is no redeeming quality about Last Stand, let alone Final Stand. And while it's realistic for your soldier to go out fighting the whole way, in a video game with split-second invulnerability, it's annoying, it's cheap. It even got Robert Bowling to say, fuck you, Last Stand, only to put that shit back in Modern Warfare 3. Oh, fucking A, man. Look, easy solutions. You either remove it completely, or you remove the invulnerability someone has when they hit the floor. Either one of those shits works. If the game stopped there, just with those 5 changes, that would really alter how Modern Warfare 2 played for the better. Some of these items made Modern Warfare 2 unique and crazy, and it gave the entertainment value that it had back in the day, but let's be fucking real here. Would games survive nowadays as a new game with that many core gameplay issues and exploits? No. Hence, the need for change, the need to evolve into something better. And look, I get it. Call of Duty 4 didn't update shit when they did the remaster, other than a few nuances to improve the game. They left the core gameplay intact, even with some of the bullshit that the game had. But Call of Duty 4 at least had the opportunity to patch shit back in the day and fix stuff back in the day. Modern Warfare 2 never had that chance. Call of Duty 4 had some bullshit even with the remaster, but let's be honest here. Not to the level of Modern Warfare 2. Modern Warfare 2's glitches and exploits blew every fucking game out of the water. But again, it also gave it its charm. Now, if you move further down the list of items that I said would need to either be fixed for the remaster, I think you start getting into too much of a rework of the game, not just a remaster. I think if you start getting into the secondary items that I mentioned, that starts stripping the game of some of the original ideas just to fit a modern day market. But I really do think some of these changes were warranted years ago. Whether I would change them now would be up for debate. I might even ask the community whether they want them updated in the remaster section of the game, not the original. Obviously, the original remains untouched. But if I were to go the full Monty, do everything, the biggest balance changes Modern Warfare 2 needed was the shotguns as secondary weapons. You know, I get the logic of what Infinity Ward tried to do, but we know that shit just didn't work. Shotguns are primary weapons. They've always been a primary weapon. People knew that they could take a FAMAS or a UMP or an ACR, and then they could have a Spaz 12 waiting for up-close encounters. Do the smart thing. Move the shotguns to primary weapons. Leave secondary weapons as pistols or whatever the fuck it is. The Spaz alone played like a primary, and shotguns have been primary guns ever since Modern Warfare 2. So that error goes to the top of the list of balance issues that I would look at to fix. Danger Close was of course used with one-man army, noob tubes, and it became the ultimate dick class right next to Marathon Lightweight Commando. Just like Last Standing Commando, it really added nothing to the game other than the ability to be a dickhead. It honestly had no purpose other than for explosives. It really didn't improve your character, it just made you blow shit up a whole lot more. Either I would tone it down, or I would adjust it and have it removed altogether. Scavenger replenishment was, of course, poor man's one-man army. Kill a motherfucker, replenish things like a claymore. You know, you hang out in a building, protected by a claymore, camp like a motherfucker, kill someone and put the claymore in a different fucking spot. Oh man, you gotta realize, man, I have a real-life fucking friend. He played like that all the time. Granted, he barely had a 1.0 kill-death ratio, and he totally sucked ass at the game. So I would say about 75% of his kills were him moving from one building to another, putting a claymore down in a room that only had one entrance, and then facing the doorway and shooting anybody that came through the door. That's how he played. I am not lying. Needless to say, shit like that needed to be fixed. Scavenger should only replenish ammo, no equipment. Bling never made sense to me. Every other perk was a character perk that helped your character. So if for some reason you picked up a different weapon, your Dead Silence still worked. Your cold-blooded perks still worked. Bling stops the moment you pick up someone else's weapon because all it did was give you two attachments. It honestly never made sense as a perk, and future versions of Call of Duty have changed how you customize your weapon. I would remove it, simply because it's not a functional perk like everything else in the game. Finally, there are the akimbo weapons, the ability to still knife a motherfucker while you have two guns out. This shit still exists today, and I doubt that it would be removed, but if I can remove it, I would remove the ability to knife melee someone if you only have akimbo weapons. There would be no melee animation. If you try pressing the melee button, it wouldn't work. If you have two guns, the only thing you can do is shoot non-stop. Maybe you could punch somebody with the gun at most, but the ability to grow a third hand and shank someone? Hell fucking no! That is something I would get rid of in that goddamn game. So, let's look at all these changes that I would essentially make and think about making, and look at how simple they really are. You remove Commando, and then you move the fall damage perk somewhere else. You give no ability for unlimited pro pipes. You get rid of death streaks and tactical insertions. You either fix or remove Last Stand, Danger Close, and definitely remove Bling. Put shotguns in primary slots where they belong, and remove knife melees when you have akimbo weapons. That's a couple of items to fix the game, and it would dramatically reduce down on the bullshit, especially all those years ago when Modern Warfare 2 was the active Call of Duty game. Now, the final things that I mentioned are items I would not touch in any remastered version of the game, but There are 3 things that I have said have altered the future of all Call of Duty games. Stopping power was removed years ago, and I'm not gonna lie. I remember kicking and screaming when they removed that shit from Black Ops 1. And it basically turned that game into a radarless fight since everyone took the fucking avoiding radar perk Ghost. Call of Duty 4 had stopping power and Juggernaut to balance each other out. But then, people ignored the other perks in that category. When Juggernaut was removed and only stopping power exists, people continued to just pick stopping power. It was commonly picked over some of the other perk 2 options. Although there were some really good perk 2 options in Modern Warfare 2, nobody really chose those unless it was a specialized class. When Treyarch made the controversial decision to remove stopping power, it led to issues, but in the long run, it was the right move. It was implemented incorrectly in Black Ops 1, but over time, it was the right move. Retroactively, removing stopping power from Modern Warfare 2 would open up the options to use something else, but the reality is, if I decided to do that, this would have then again turned this game into Black Ops 1, and I don't want to do that. The majority of people, if they didn't have stopping power, would take cold-blooded. I don't think removing stopping power in Modern Warfare 2 would work, but I do agree that the removal of it in future games was a necessary step for all Call of Duty games. Trick shotting is, of course, polarizing, with all these fucking jackasses jumping off of buildings, trying to land the perfect shot. You know, not giving a fuck about the game, but caring about the landing in the final kill cam. I've always said they belong in their own section of the game, and should not be mixed with the normal population. Call of Duty is an arcade shooter, but sniping in this game goes beyond arcade into fucking fantasy land and shit. I could go into details on how to keep trick shotting in only the arcade mode, and then I'll update the remastered version, but seriously, that's just too much damn talking and thinking. Fuck that, I can't be bothered with that shit. I'm not making the fucking game, so I'm not gonna go into the details of that bullshit, so I'll leave it. Ain't touching it. Fuck it, just have to deal with it. This leaves the final ideological problem, the nuke. I said this almost 10 fucking years ago, and I will say it again, but the nuke single-handedly changed how people play Call of Duty. There was no single factor in any Call of Duty game that altered the landscape like the 25 kill tactical nuke in Modern Warfare 2. I can't rehash every talking point. I talked about this shit all those years ago. But the gist is, in Call of Duty 4 and World at War, kill streaks were topped out at 7 kills. That's all you needed for the top reward. Then you could go die and start over if you wanted again. The nuke tripled the amount of kills you needed for a game-ending EP measuring award. Some people were skilled enough just to play normal, but the overwhelming majority of players are not that skilled. In most cases, it required people to change how they approach the game to get kills. It led us to seeing more Harriers, AC-130s, chopper gunners. It led to boosters trying to get nukes with their friends with tactical insertions. It led to people playing like bitches, whether they played careful for a full game or they camped the last couple of kills for a fucking nuke. Myself included. Shit, I'm not embarrassed to admit that shit. I can remember at least 2 or 3 nukes that I got where my chopper gunner or my AC-130 left me like a couple kills short of 25. So what did I do? I camped like a fucking cunt to get the last couple that I needed. Guarantee you, there were plenty of people who did the same shit I did. And whether they got the nuke or they didn't get the nuke, they altered how they played just to get the nuke. Regardless of how influential the nuke was towards playing and pushing for the highest kill streaks possible, it's not something I would remove from Modern Warfare 2. I want to. I really, really, really would want to, but I wouldn't do it. Let it be, because in the years since Modern Warfare 2, the subsequent games have all added their own versions of rewards or kill streaks after getting 25, 30 kills or whatever the fuck it is. So, I might as well leave the original in place, not touch it as much as I would want to get rid of that motherfucker. At the end of the day, we don't know if Modern Warfare 2 will be coming back. I feel it probably will. There's no guarantee of that. There's no proof it's coming back. But I feel at some point, Modern Warfare 2 would be remastered. Now, if they put me in charge, here's my blueprint for how I would do it. But until that day, it's a pipe dream that this game will come back, or a noob-tube pipe dream if you want to say that. As long as they don't attach it to some futuristic alien fucking fighter game, it is a game that I would probably return to at the very least. If they had a standalone version, I would certainly do so. But until that day, this is all just in theory. So as always, rate, comment, subscribe, and all that good shit, and I'll see you guys in the next video.